I'm Sam from Cultaholic.com, and this is graded for WWE Stomping Grounds 2019, where I take a look at the show segment by segment and award each little bit a grade from A+ to F. Now, for a show that didn't really have a lot of build to it, and for a show that people were sort of like apprehensive about, I guess, the card wasn't looking that great, it was actually pretty good. But unfortunately, in line with the logo, I don't have a boot-themed tie, so I'm just gonna have to make do with this. So without any further ado, hit the intro. So we kick things off tonight on the pre-show with the Cruiserweight Triple Threat match, which is the champion Tony Nese versus Drew Gulak versus Akira Tozawa. Tony Nese is repping the brand tonight, dressed in purple and orange. Akira Tozawa is dressed a little bit like Spider-Man, and Drew Gulak is dressed like your goth little brother. This one had an explosive start. Gulak was straight on Nese at the bell, and the pace didn't let up throughout. There was a really nice moment where things spilled to the outside and it got a bit chaotic. Nese hit his weird cartwheel kick thing onto Gulak, only to be wiped out by a diving Tozawa onto the announce table, and then Tozawa got up onto the apron and hit a massive cannonball onto a prone Gulak, who was just up against the crowd barrier. It's a strange match because no one can really gain control. It's a little bit anything goes, and despite the fact that Nese is sort of in control, he keeps getting his pin attempts cut off. And then Gulak manages to take charge, hitting a suplex on Nese through a trapped Tozawa. He's like in the ropes and he just gets flattened. Gulak manages to lock in the Gulak on Nese, and just as Nese is sort of about to tap, in comes Tozawa from out of frame with a massive high back senton. There's then a bit of an awkward moment where Tozawa accidentally seemed to fall off of the apron, and it led to Gulak being late to break up a pin attempt. But the end of the match is as follows. Nese has got Gulak on the ropes. He's sort of like holding him back by his neck. Tozawa goes to drop kick him. Gulak goes out the way. Nese goes sailing to the outside, and then Gulak hits a torture rack neck breaker on Tozawa to pick up the 3. Drew Gulak is the new Cruiserweight champion. And I'm going to give this one a B. We have a new moody champion. The match was fast-paced and exciting throughout. It was a great advert for 205 Live, and I'm hoping for some stellar character work in the coming weeks from Gulak. And that was it for the pre-show, so we move straight on to the first match of the main card, and that's Becky Lynch versus Lacey Evans. Things are quite heated from the off, with Becky getting into Lacey's face. Lacey slaps Becky's hand away. It's all a bit tense. That being said, Becky is very much in control. She takes Lacey around the bases, turnbuckle to turnbuckle to turnbuckle, and then there's this weird awkward moment where Lacey sort of misses a back kick, I guess, from Becky. She's on the turnbuckles. Becky has to repeat the spot, and it was just a bit of a disconnect. There is a little bit of outside work from Lacey. She grabs Becky by the hair and the ankles, and she's stretching her around the ring post. It was so vicious and it looked wonderful. Becky locks in an armbar, Lacey escapes it, and then we have possibly my favorite moment of the match. Lacey gets a handkerchief, she rubs it on her armpit, she throws it in Becky's face. Becky, obviously not want to take something like that, she sort of stands up, she shoves it into Lacey's mouth as far as it'll go, she hits her as hard as she can, and the hanky goes flying across the ring. It was like a mandible claw. She was like proper just trying to choke her out with that hanky. Lacey then hits her corner assisted stunner, but it's not enough. She goes up top, but then Becky catches her into a disarmer, and that's it. She taps immediately, and I mean like immediately. She touches the arm and tap, 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 tap. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to give this one a C. It just felt a little bit too stop-start for my liking. It was the right result by far. Becky still looks like $1 million. Lacey even looked pretty strong, but I just can't look past some of the miscommunications that led to the match feeling a little bit jittery. We then have a backstage segment. We run into Paul Heyman leaving Baron Corbin's locker room. Heyman avoids questions about the obvious sort of ref fiddling that's going on right there. And then he diverts things by saying, there's 2 chances for Brock to actually cash in tonight, if he wants to. Corbin then emerges after the interviewer walks off and sort of suggests to the interviewer that she may be there for a reason other than interviewing him. Ooh, saucy. But then Baron says he's selected his referee and you're all gonna find out later. And then we go back to the ring for my match of the night, which is Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus The New Day, who are represented by Big E and Xavier Woods. So Owens takes Big E out on the apron, almost pinning Woods, only for Sami Zayn to tag in after he can't get the 3 and hits a blue thunderbomb. powerbomb. Owens then hits a frog splash, but still, Woods kicks out. And then the pair just continue to make very good work of him for an uncomfortably long amount of time. The story in this match sort of revolves around how much punishment Xavier Woods can actually take. Like, Big E doesn't really get any in-ring action until Woods is finally able to escape and get him the hot tag, at which point he comes in and obviously cleans house. And then Zayn manages to take care of Big E, Woods comes in off the rope, Sami connects with a super kick, and we end with a quadruple down. And the crowd are really letting these guys know how much they love this match. Once they're all back up, there's a really nasty looking spear from Big E to Sami, who stood on the apron. It sends them both barreling to the outside. And then Owens hits a stunner on Woods as he comes off the ropes to pick up the 3. This was match of the night for me. It was amazing. I'm gonna give this match an A-. It was so well paced, so many great near falls, so many memorable moments. All 4 of these guys should be very proud of the story they managed to weave throughout this match, and I was really like a fan of moments like Woods trying to lift Big E, but he can't quite do it because he's been worked over so hard. Little simple storytelling, things like that I just adore. We then go backstage and it's Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, and Alexa says she feels responsible for costing Nikki her first title chance, and then Nikki says, don't worry about that, I'm just hoping that people start to see Bayley for what she really is. And then we go back to the ring for Samoa Joe versus Ricochet, another stellar match. Ricochet very quickly finds his feet before getting grabbed by Joe and driven into the apron and thrown around and just murdered. Joe just starts turning Ricochet inside out. He hits an Uranagi, he hits a massive clothesline, he hits a step-up enziguri. Ricochet at this point just looks like a bug that's been splattered onto a windshield. And then Joe even gets this really cool looking rope-assisted powerbomb. He looks like the biggest, baddest guy on the planet. Ricochet then hits some Will Ospreay classics like running up Joe's torso to finally gain some traction. Both guys then go blow for blow, with Ricochet escaping a Coquina clutch and hitting a 630 to pick up the win. Ricochet is the new United States champion. I'm going to give this one a B+. It was just amazing. Ricochet sold like death for Joe so many times here. Joe is free of the US title to progress to the upper middle card, and Ricochet has another North American themed belt. And then backstage, a huge group of people congratulate Ricochet on his win, including Triple H, who gives him a bit of a slap on the face as well. Weird. We then go back to the ring for Heavy Machinery versus Bryan and Rowan. The crowd here in Tacoma obviously on Bryan's side. He's a very, very local boy. Otis manages to keep Bryan at arm's length before military pressing him and then handing him over to Tucker in a vertical suplex position. In the opening phases of this one, Bryan seems a little bit weird. He seems very cautious and a little bit off kilter, like he's worried that he could actually be beaten. Like, even Tucker seems to be an even match for Bryan at certain points in the early stages. It's quite strange. It doesn't last long though, because Rowan eventually gets in and he just starts wearing Tucky down. Eventually, Bryan seems to find his footing when he starts laying in the high knees, but Otis almost pins him. Otis then goes for the Vader bomb and he misses, and then Bryan tries to send the match into go home mode by hitting the yes kicks, but it doesn't work because Otis just starts stepping back to his feet, powering out of it like, is that all you got? Eventually, Heavy Machinery go for the compactor on Rowan, only for Bryan to re-emerge and low bridge Tucker, sending him sailing to the outside. Tucker then hits a dive onto Rowan on the outside, and this proves to be his undoing because he gets sent straight back into the ring and rolled up by Danny O'Brien. Danny O'Brien and Eric Rowan are still your SmackDown Tag Team Champions. I'm going to give this one a B. The crowd being firmly on Bryan's side had a nice feel to it. Commentary didn't even downplay it. It was actually quite nice for once. And also, they made Heavy Machinery look like a genuine threat, so it was great. We then go to Alexa Bliss versus Bayley. Bayley came out of the blocks on top first, and then Bliss took charge and she was being super heely. She even started slapping Bayley at one point with the encouragement of Nikki. And Bliss is super aggressive whenever she does take charge, just yanking at Bayley's arm. It looks like she's going to rip it out of the socket. Bayley then hits this horrible looking sunset flip bomb onto Alexa right into the turnbuckle, and it was just, yeah, it looked like her neck took a serious beating. I'm going to refer to my notes for this next bit because it gets a little bit hectic, but the setup is essentially Bayley goes to hit a dive on the outside, and Bliss pushes Nikki into the path of the dive to save herself. Bliss then climbs the turnbuckle, attempting to hit Twisted Bliss, and then Nikki comes in trying to yank Bayley out of the ring. She's trying to attack her for diving on her, despite the fact that Alexa shoved her into the path of the dive. Bliss then hits the Twisted Bliss, but Bayley gets her knees up. Bayley hits the Bayley to belly and picks up the win. So Bayley retains, and she looks a little bit annoyed at Nikki Cross for trying to get herself involved in the match, whereas Alexa and Nikki are sort of huddled together, looking quite sympathetic at the end of the match. Now, unfortunately, I'm only going to be able to give give this one a C. It does further the Nikki Bliss storyline, which is super interesting, but it just felt a little bit hollow. It didn't quite feel like it got off to the races. We then go backstage and Ricochet's taking pictures with his new United States Championship, and then the club arrive. And the club are just sort of trying to get him to Too Sweet, and he's like, no. And then AJ Styles shows up and he's just like, congratulations. And then he tells him he'll see him tomorrow night. We then go back to the ring for Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre with Shane McMahon at ringside. Drew is straight up the ramp during Roman's entrance, attacking him, but Roman quickly gets it under control and into the ring. Shane proves to be a little bit of a distraction early on. He tries to get away through the crowd. Roman follows him in this big loop, and as Roman's trying to jump the barricade, out comes Drew. Big punch, just knocks Roman straight down. Whenever Roman gets to his feet, Drew is straight on his back, and Roman is selling like a beast for him. He's making him look so strong, and it's so wonderful. I personally think Roman is at his best when you sort of get that little break in the Superman character where there is the little doubt of will it happen, will he lose? I think that vulnerability and the idea that he may lose the match does make it a little easier for viewers to get on board with. Reigns eventually does get in charge after a huge Samoan drop, and he's got Drew right where he wants him. He sets Drew up for the Superman punch, but Shane distracts the referee, so Roman hits Shane instead, follows him to the outside, hits him again, and then Drew jumps up, grabs Roman, and hits that weird reverse Alabama slam type thing. He just drives Roman face first into the announce table. Drew nails Roman with a superplex, only for Roman to kick out at 2, and then they go back and forth, sort of dodging each other's signature moves until Roman catches Drew short with a Superman punch. Roman then hits the spear and has Drew dead to rights, only for Shane to pull the referee out of the ring. Shane then gets in the ring, assaults Roman, and hits a coast to coast. Shane then presents Roman on a golden plate to Drew, but he still kicks out. He dodges Shane, he hits a spear, and he picks up the win. I'm going to give this match a B+. As I said earlier, Roman with a little bit of vulnerability is a bit of an easier pill to swallow. We know he's going to win, we always know he's going to win, but convincing us otherwise, convincing us that he might get diddled out of the win via nefarious means, always makes it more exciting. Drew looked like a beast as always, but there was a bit of a strange moment when Shane pulled the referee out of the ring. He seemed to pull him a little bit too hard, or the referee landed funny or something, because the referee tweaked his knee. He looked in serious pain. It looked like he maybe hyperextended it, or he's like jarred it somehow. It just didn't look comfortable. We go back to the ring for tonight's semi-main event, which is Kofi Kingston, WWE Champion, versus Dolph Ziggler inside a steel cage. Ziggler attempts to escape early in this one, with Kofi stopping him both times. And pretty early on, there's a nasty looking fall for Kofi between the ropes and the cage before Ziggler grabs him by the hair and just starts grating his face. Ziggler is very much the aggressor in this one, with Kofi eating a lot of offense. He does manage to get himself into the swing of things though when Ziggler disrespects him and slaps him, so Kofi just slaps him right back. He drives him into the cage a few times and he shows him who's boss. Kofi almost has himself over the top of the cage before Dolph climbs to the top rope. Dolph is fairly quickly disposed of and Kofi hits a massive diving crossbody. But this all somehow culminates with both men perched right at the top of the cage. Ziggler claws and fights and almost gets his way out of the cage before Kofi drags him back in, and then we have a double down. Kofi then hits the SOS to no avail, and then Dolph starts working over his legs. Kofi manages to reach the ropes, where the referee politely reminds him that in a cage match, there are no rope breaks. Finally, there are no rope breaks in a cage match, confirmed. One of my favourite moments of the match has to be when Dolph super kicks Kofi and almost knocks him barreling out of the cage door. He has to jump and grab his foot at the last minute to stop him falling fully out. Ziggler hits the zigzag, Kofi kicks out, and then Ziggler starts going again for the door, and Kofi makes the ultimate risk, dives over the top of him, putting his own body in jeopardy, landing quite horribly, but both of his feet touch the floor first. He just goes sailing straight over the top of Ziggler, who's just got his hands on the floor, looking at him like, oh. I'm going to give this match a B+. I thought the pace was really good. I thought the suspense with all the escape attempts was great. I liked Ziggler being the sort of weedy heel, but able to back it up with a good set of offense. There was a lot of drama throughout, as there should be with any good cage match, and Kofi, as I said, sacrificing himself or his well-being in order to win the match with that massive final dive. I really liked that. And then we go back to the ring for Baron Corbin versus Seth Rollins, plus there is a special guest referee. Now going into this, everybody was like, it's going to be Lesnar, 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 he's going to cash in. And pre-match, Corbin's on the mic, then Rollins comes out and he's like, cut the crap. And he's like, okay, well, here comes the special guest referee. it's only bloody Lacey Evans. Then she comes down, she almost trips on the ramp, and Cole keeps reminding us that Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch are in a relationship. Corbin then stamps Seth down, he nails him repeatedly with a chair before Lacey even rings the bell. Rollins finally gets in the game with a step up enziguri, he hits a series of strikes, a blockbuster and a dive to Corbin on the outside. He tries to pin Corbin, but of course, the count is slow from Lacey. Possibly my favourite spot of the match happens not too long after this. Corbin is on the apron holding onto the rope, Seth slides underneath him baseball slide style and then just power bombs him through the announce table. Lacey then starts a very slow count. She gets all the way to 7 before she asks the ring announcer to come to the side of the ring. She then announces that the match is going to be restarted as a no countouts match, and I didn't realise referees could just on a whim change the rules. I thought that was the commissioner's job. There's another great moment where Rollins hits a top rope splash, Lacey counts 2, and then she's like got a cramp in her arm so she can't do 3, and Corey on commentary, he's like, oh, it's Becky's fault that, because she got that arm in the disarmer, so it's Becky's fault that Seth didn't get the 3 there. Corbin then starts once again laying in chair shots on Seth, and it's a bit of a travesty, I'm not gonna lie. Like, the crowd don't really know what to do. It's obviously more of an angle. They're waiting on something happening for Becky to come out. They're all chanting for Becky. It was really awkward. So as soon as Corbin starts using the chair, Lacey's like, I'm gonna have to do it. So she reschedules the match again via the ring announcer and makes it no DQ. Rollins then hits a Falcon Arrow onto a steel chair, and Lacey refuses outright. She just refuses outright to count the pin. She slaps Rollins twice, she low blows him. Corbin hits the end of days, but before anything else can happen, out comes Becky, and she starts taking it to Lacey. Becky has saved her boyfriend's bacon. And commentary go wild here. I have an actual quote from Jack the Jobber here, and he said, at this point, Cole is absolutely cumming his pants. So yeah, Becky takes care of Lacey on the outside, more referees come down, and John Cone, Nicholas's dad, takes over the match. Rollins hits the stomp to pick up the win, because, you know, stomping ground, and then there's no Brock. It's just like a nice emotional moment with Becky and Seth. They sort of, like, she holds his arm up in the ring, they walk up the ramp together. It's like, you know, it's like a really nice feel-good ending. It's odd, really odd. Why are we getting a happy ending in WWE? I couldn't quite work out what to give this match, and I want to know what all of you thought it was worth in the comments below, but I think I'm going to have to give it a question mark because it felt like a long build to an eventual payoff, but it was a payoff that everybody knew was coming. And the live crowd just seemed to have the life sucked out of them until Becky arrived. It was so weird. And in terms of an overall grade for Stompy G's, I'm gonna give it a B. The show wasn't actually that bad. It was really entertaining. It had some standout moments. It was just that main event was a little bit long and drawn out for me. It just made me a little bit like, But you can't let that jeopardize the quality of some of the earlier matches on the show. I loved the New Day Kevin Owens Sami Zayn tag. I loved the 205 stuff as a 205 live guy. Roman Drew was great. Kofi Ziggler was great. There were just a lot of really good moments on this show. But this has been graded for WWE Stomping Grounds 2019. What did you think of it? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below. You can follow Cultaholic on Twitter at Cultaholic. You can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you like what we do here at Cultaholic, you can check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/Cultaholic. And no matter what you do, don't ever forget to hit subscribe and join us.